Hello everybody, we are here on Gran Turismo 7 and we are trying to find the formula for success, the formula for a victory. We're here on Daily Race B, we've got Dragon Trail Gardens reverse. Now this is the first time I myself have ever raced Dragon Trail in its reverse, format. Looking to the grid here, we're starting on P3, we're using the Nissan GTR, bit of a slave to the meta. We've got two very fast Czech drivers who have qualified ahead of us. I believe my qualifying time for this race was a 1:31.85, I think. Bearing in mind this is a B-rated lobby, so some very fast players in here. So we're going to get started here. We rev the engine a little bit too much, and we're going to have to go defensive immediately here against Jammy, the French driver behind us, and the two in front. Going hammer and tongue already through T1 and 2. Now I'm using the GTR here, which is interesting because this is the first time I've driven this car around this track. I did my qualifying time in the V12 Vantage, and so there's a few little differences between those two cars. I think the V12 is a little bit more oversteery, whereas this one, the GTR, a little bit more planted and more understeery. Having said that, we just get a big step out of oversteer on the exit there. So we're going to be following these Czech drivers around here. Good start for us, managed to keep P3 and T1 and 2. Coming into this very tricky, hairpin right at the bottom of the track, and I can never seem to get that one right. It's a very difficult one, long apex, strange curb on the apex as well. So we get a run here on the Czech driver, and going into the chicane, we're going to look around the outside. We're just going to hang it around the outside here, but there's no real future on the inside there. So we back out, and I'm going to get a big step of oversteer over the curb, but then unfortunately we see the Czech driver dropping it on the exit, just putting two wheels on the grass there. And you never want to see a fast driver on pole lose it of their own accord like that. But for us, it means we move up into P2. We're following the Porsche now, R4M, obviously a fan of Super GT. So we're about 8/10 behind, coming through T2 here. We've got the attention of the German behind as I just give a little check of the mirrors. And this section here is very difficult to get right, and I found it more difficult in the GTR than in the Vantage. 4 apexes there, and it's a difficult one. The curb on the exit can unsettle the car. I usually try, and there's usually a little shadow of that barrier for that turn where you want to spot your braking points. Sometimes with the dynamic weather and time, it's not always there, but you can usually get it about right. As I say, don't really get on with this turn. I see a lot of people squaring it off a lot better than I do. I think the Porsche does get around that corner a lot better. I tried to qualify in the Porsche, but I just can't seem to hook it up as well as other cars. So we go purple here, sector 2. We go into the chicane. Nice entrance on the first corner. We get the second corner pretty much spot on, but it's this one I just can't get quite right sometimes. But we are 3.5 behind now, and we're going to look on the main straight, on the back straight here, to try and get ahead into the lead. We're better in a straight line, but we're not going to be able to get it done, unfortunately, on this occasion. He goes defensive very early, so we're going to have to stay behind for now, moving into T1. It's an interesting corner, but managed to get it right most times, so I'm not too dissatisfied with T1 and 2. So we're going to jump forward a lap here, moving into lap 4. As you can see, 7.5 still the gap. So very, very similar to what it was. We've got the Germans still behind us, keeping us honest. And this was the story of this race, really. Just very constant gap, nothing really eating away at the gap. Couldn't really make any inroads. I think I'm definitely better at this middle sector here than I am at the end of the lap. Getting that one not too bad. Probably could have taken a bit more speed on the exit, and as I said here, just spotting that shadow, braking, trying to take a little bit of apex, not too much so it unsettles the car. This part of the track nice and flowing, very fun. Little step of oversteer there, and we just have to lift off, as I thought I could have maybe got a penalty there, but we move into the hairpin at the bottom of the track. As you can see in the radar, the German behind us within a second now. So we have to stay honest. It's a good battle this. 3 cars within 2 seconds of each other for the lead. And we move to the chicane. Now this is just one of those sets of corners that I do struggle to get right most times. If I get the first apex right, and as you can see, just getting a huge step as I jump over the curb there. If I get one apex right, I always seem to mess up the second or the third. I can never hook it up for all 3. That's one of the problem areas of my lap at the moment that I'm trying to solve as this week goes on. So once again, we're going to jump forward here on the last lap, and as you can see, 6.5 tenths. So a little bit of gains made, but you know, not enough to really make an impression. And you'd like to think that the Czech driver would have it in the bag, barring a mistake. We've dropped the German behind to about 2 seconds, so it really is a 2-car battle now. 5.5 tenths as we come up to this quadruple apex. I don't know what you would call this corner. I don't know if this type of corner has a name, but yeah, where we meet the apex well, and that's probably the best I've taken it all race. So we don't quite meet the apex there, and we get wide, and that's an important part of this lap. You need to get that first apex right because it really disrupts your flow throughout the whole section. A little step out for the Porsche there. We come into the hairpin just a little touch wide, and I just get a huge step of oversteer. Unfortunately, maybe the dirty air just unsettling the car a little bit on the exit, and unfortunately I think that is going to be our race wrapped up. We still have a few more corners, potential for a mistake, but this Czech driver has driven very well, very calmly in the lead, and then again just getting a bit wide and really dangerous. Could have ended my race there and then, but we managed to keep it in one piece, and we round the final corner and we take a P2, which is a good result against some very fast drivers. You know, 1 position higher than we started. Will not complain with that. And 9:23 is a very fast race time, I think, for a B-rated lobby. So there we have it, 1 position gain, and we got the fastest lap and a clean race there. So not too bad to start with, but it's not the win that we're looking for. So we're going to step into another race here, and as you can see, I've improved my qualifying time by about 2 tenths, and we start on pole in the Vantage. Now this is a car that I don't know if it's as quick as the GTR in terms of absolute pace, but it definitely suits my driving style a bit more. You can drive it a little bit more on the edge. It's a little bit happier to be thrown into the apexes if you're you yourself are happy to deal with a bit of oversteer on the exit, which is totally fine by me. So 6 laps here of Dragon Trail Gardens. We're going to try and see this one out. So starting from pole, it's always an interesting one, you know, spotting your braking point as a pole driver. It's going to be different to normal laps, but I think we get it pretty much spot on here, and you're just basically trying to get through this first couple of corners without binning it in the wall. It's a difficult place to overtake on the whole, I think, this track. It's a very flowing, fast track, not too many heavy braking points. So yes, the Vantage, definitely my car of choice this week. I think it's probably Porsche dominated, certainly in the B-rated lobbies. I think the overall rankings, the top 100, seems to be quite GTR dominated, but there's been a lot of Porsches in the B-rated lobbies, I've noticed. So as you can see in the top left, we've got about a second gap, about 2/3 of the way through this first lap, and I'm going to bring it into the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit. It's pretty much spot on, not too much at curb to unsettle the car, but just meeting the apex nicely. I've had a lot of fun with this race this week. There's been certain races recently where I haven't really had as much fun. Thinking back to Laguna Seca a few weeks ago in the Group 3, I really struggled with that one. Quite enjoyed Deep Forest last week with the Group 4s, but this one really suits my eye. And I've been, I think I maybe have won 3 or 4 of these now, all in the Vantage. And it does feel nice to win the race in a car that's not necessarily the dominator of the meta. So rounding out the first lap here, we've got a 1.5 second gap to the Brit in second place. Spotting our braking point just before that curb on the left for T1 there, just rotating it round. You got to It's very easy to get on the power too early for T2, so and the Vantage very much happy to slide out if you apply too much. I am a controller driver, so you have to be quite careful with the triggers, not to, you know, input too much acceleration, because yeah, the car will very much step out freely. So pretty good section of corners there. We spot the braking point on the shadow, roll it round, and that means we can hook up this section nicely, and this is one of the better ones I think that I did. Not too much lift through there. You can take that flat out if you really hook it up. Again, a little bit wobbly, trying to straighten the car up there, but not too bad, and you just got to be careful then. Again, it's a little bit off camber. You don't want to pump in too much throttle or else you might spin out. So looking to the top left, we got about 1.9 seconds now to second place. We're coming into the chicane here, so it's looking good so far. Seems like we do have the pace, and I did think that I cut that there. I thought that could have been a penalty, but the stewards obviously having a beer, to quote Carlos Sainz, obviously didn't see that. So we make our way through the final corner, meeting the apex nicely on the exit. We're going to jump forward here to lap 5 because not too much has happened. We've kept a relatively stable gap, and notice in the top left here the gap really opens up to about 3 seconds, so second place obviously making a big mistake there, and we just have to keep it planted, keep it on the road now. As I say that, I go very, very deep into the hairpin at the bottom of the circuit there, but we do keep our advantage at about 3.5 seconds, 3.8 seconds there. This guy Gavsky in second place kept me very honest. He had great pace. He was definitely quicker than me in certain parts of the track. The final sector rather, he was very much quicker than me by about 3 or 4 tenths, but I seem to be about half a second quicker through the middle sector. So we're going to stay on board, no cuts now till the end. Meeting that apex nicely, probably took that just about as well as you can hope to. Really enjoying the way that the Vantage feels around this track. If you haven't given the Vantage a go, I'd very much recommend that you do so. I think if you're happy with a little bit of back end step out, and you like to be able to throw the car into the corners, I think you'll really like the Vantage around here. So as I say, 4 seconds now is the gap to second place, and we just have to keep our heads on, keep it calm. A little bit of a slide there, but actually taking that quite well. It's very difficult to know what sort of speed and line you want to take through there. I think there's definitely a few ways to go about it. It's not too important that you take loads of speed out of the exit because there's not too much track to the next corner, but it is important to get right nonetheless. So flat out through there, we got that pretty much nailed on. To the final time into this tricky hairpin, taking that pretty spot on, and we're actually hooking it up very nicely in this final lap. As you'll notice as we cross the second sector line here, we are purple by nearly 2 tenths. That's from my own fastest lap as well, so improving on pace even late in the race is a good sign. Says to me that I can still improve my quali time from a 1:31.6, but we're going to round the final turn here, and we are going to pick up a fantastic victory, dominated from start to finish. 5 seconds the gap to second place, and we'll cross the line for a 1:32.0 in the end, and an elapsed time in the race of 9 minutes 20, so very happy with that. And I think the key to this race is consistency, keeping it on the road, hooking up the correct corners, and yeah, more content to come for sure from this race because I'm really enjoying myself. So thank you ever so much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then let me know down below. With that said, I hope you look forward to the next video as much as I look forward to making it, and I will see you next time.